Alright, what's up guys? I wanted to talk about some video games today. I got some new equipment, as you can tell. Pretty excited about that. It's still not perfect. Um, the audio is probably not going to be great. I'm working on getting a microphone. I will get there. And the editing is not going to be perfect either. I got to learn how to do some stuff, but I'm upgrading. I'm getting there. Promised you that it was going to happen, and check me out. It's happening. But I wanted to talk about Insomniac and Ubisoft, and how Insomniac is kind of heading down the same road as Ubisoft. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but I'll tell you why I think that. But first off, I want to say, when you think of Ubisoft, you think of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. And when you think of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, you think of the same endless shit, the same endless taking over territories, turning them into friendly camps, and over and over and over again. And then just mindless killing, which, don't get me wrong, can be very fun for a while, but then, it kind of wears off on you. And I'd say this because I just got done with Far Cry 6, and while the combat in Far Cry 6 is definitely an upgrade from the previous games, the story is pure trash. Just absolutely terrible. Um, I was pretty disappointed in the game, actually. The ending was god awful. I won't spoil anything in case you haven't played it yet. But um, terrible game. Terrible game all around. One of the most disappointing things in that game, in my opinion, actually, is the city. The city of uh, Jesus, I can't even remember the name of the place you're in, but they Ubisoft hyped up that you would now be, instead of just being in just open land and with like little towns here and there was a city. And the city was probably the most boring part of the game, actually, which really sucks because they hyped it up a lot. That was one of the biggest factors of why you should get Far Cry 6, because there's all these changes. And while there were a couple necessary add-ons, I feel like for the most part, there was nothing good. The city was the most barren city I've probably ever been in a video game. There was practically no NPCs. Like every 2 blocks, you'd probably see like 1 to 2 NPCs being harassed by the militia, uh, but that was about it. And there was nothing to do with it. Yeah, there was the militia in there, and if you were in the red zone in the city, they would attack you on sight. But there was no point to it. It's the same thing that happens outside of the city that happens in the city, except for some reason the city looks about twice as bad as everywhere else in the game for some reason. And the rest of the game didn't look good either. For some reason, the city just looked terrible. The buildings looked like they were straight out of a PS2 era video game. Very disappointing city. And it was just the same video game that we played before, but with a worse story. Uh, the only upgrade I really liked and appreciated was that you could holster your weapon. I like that simply for the role-playing aspect that I try to take into every game, whether it's a role-playing game or not. I like to kind of create my own character, which was actually even harder to do in this one because the character was voiced, which I didn't feel like was necessary because they didn't have anything good to say. I actually like the female character more. If you pick the female Danny, I feel like the female voice actor, whoever that was, did a really good job. The male voice actor just wasn't good. Um, and yeah, I just can't say I liked it. Uh, Now, on the topic of Insomniac and Spider-Man, um, Insomniac is kind of going down that same road of, okay, we're going to release the same game, but with upgrades here and there to graphics, slight changes to combat. Really boring stuff that just doesn't make me jizz in my pants. It really doesn't. Um, I think Miles Morales in no way is a bad game, but after your 50th kick, punch, and swing kick, it just gets old. Now, where Far Cry 6 had that terrible story, at least Spider-Man can hold up. Both games, Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales, have incredible stories. That, I can give it to them. But the combat is just stale. It's very stale. It's the same thing over and over and over again. I think video games need to really start, or video game developers need to really start taking a page out of God of War's playbook. The developers for that, they took a huge leap doing the 2018 God of War, and it paid off. And I get it; it's a risk sometimes, so you got to be careful. But I mean, come on, guys, you've been doing these video games for years now. I think you know the right type of risk you can take. That'll still be good for the player base, instead of just releasing the same old thing over and over and over again. I don't understand, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's the same thing as the rest, just with slight differences here and there. But for some reason, it was the most bought Assassin's Creed in the Assassin's Creed franchise. And it kind of baffles me because I heard so many people online and just friends that hated the game, that thought it was terrible just because it was exactly as Far Cry. It's the same thing over and over and over again. There's no risk, and it's a boring game. But to me, it's kind of like how it's like buying an iPhone. And it's also like Call of Duty. They keep releasing the same thing over and over again, but you don't want to be left out, so you keep buying the upgrade, even though they're selling you the same thing repackaged for, now with the PS5, a more expensive price tag. And you just don't want to be left behind, so you buy it. Hell, I do it too. I did do it. And I regret it each time. And it sucks that these companies keep releasing these type of games, and more people keep buying it because they don't want to feel left behind, so they're actually making more profit than ever now, so they think what they're doing is the right thing. Actually, I take that back. They know what they're doing is the wrong thing, but they know they're making money that way, so they're gonna keep doing it. And now to Insomniac. I might be jumping the gun a bit because they have only released 2 Spider-Man games. And I'm very curious to see what they do with Wolverine. I'm a huge Wolverine fan, and I don't really know how they're going to do it. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm very curious to see if it's going to be open world or linear. I don't really see how they could do an open world Wolverine game. I wouldn't be too mad if they didn't do that, so I kind of hope they keep it more linear, but I really don't see how they could beat Wolverine Origins. That game was phenomenal, and it was gory, and that's the biggest thing, is the gore and brutality. I just don't see Insomniac being able to pull that off. If you're going to make a Wolverine game, it has to be rated M, just as all Wolverine movies I felt like should have been rated R, and that's why Logan was probably the best Wolverine movie to date. So I really don't know what they're going to do with that. I'm very curious to see, but I honestly don't have my hopes up. But as far as Spider-Man goes, in my opinion, they've only got a couple more chances from me to keep sticking with them, because I just have this feeling the next Spider-Man is going to be exactly the same as Spider-Man Miles Morales and the first Spider-Man, except maybe a slight difference. Like, I'm guessing you probably can switch between the two, either on command or maybe for certain missions. I think it'd be cool if they did it on command, honestly. You kind of decide which one you want to go with, which Spider-Man you want to go with for which mission, and they'll both have different unique powers because they do. So that would be cool, but again, it would just be a slight upgrade to an otherwise stale video game. Uh, I don't really know how they could upgrade it to make it um, more interesting in the sense of how God of War did, but one thing I think they could do is make the city more in depth. New York City in these games, they're beautiful. It's beautiful, but there's not much depth to it. It's kind of just a beautiful backdrop for all the swinging and fighting. And I think they could do more. I think they could just kind of flesh it out more somehow. I don't quite know how. Like maybe make some interiors a little bit more accessible. Um, I kind of actually like how they do the interiors here. Like when you go to stop a robbery and you go to help them, they switch it to that 2D side camera. Kind of makes you feel like that old school Spider-Man. I really like that actually. But other than that, they're really the the interiors aren't too special. Um, in the side quests, the side quests are very they're the same each time. Um, like that dude, I don't know the names to any of these people, but the guy who calls you and tells you about, oh, there's a robbery on Fifth Street or something, and you go do it. They should flesh those quests out a lot more. Um, maybe add somebody from a comic book, from one of the Spider-Man comic books, add him into the video game or something, or to the side quest, just to kind of give it a little bit more fan service too. And there's a little bit of that here and there, but not enough in my opinion. Um, I really think if they fleshed out the side quest more, just imagine if each one of those calls you got. I mean, don't get me wrong, it shouldn't be each one, because he is known as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man who just stops crime. But maybe if there's a little bit more just backstory to it, a little bit more just story to the side quest, I think would be very, very fun. Because their main story is great. I think they should just put a team on developing very unique side quests, kind of like how Forbidden West did, Horizon Forbidden West. They had a whole team dedicated to making the world feel alive. And while I don't think that game is great, I do think they succeeded in that challenge, where many, many games, especially nowadays, struggle because it's all about quality over quantity nowadays. Or the other way around, actually. Most video game developers want quantity over quality. Um, and I really think that needs to change up. And I don't quite understand how video game companies keep getting away with it. But they do, and people keep buying it, and I probably will too. But I think it does need to change. The only way to change it, though, is to not buy the product, which just isn't going to happen. Same with iPhones, same with Call of Duty. It's not going to stop happening. So uh, I do worry about the future of the video game companies. And I worry for Insomniac. I'm not going to lie. I think I worry about that. I'm not making this video just to trash on them. I'm making this video because I love the potential that they have. I think they have a lot of potential and a lot of... And this is just for their superhero games. They've made games in the past. It's not like they're some new developer. Like, I've loved all their other games, but they're not making other games right now. They're sticking with the superhero stuff. And I really hope they don't get stuck in the fact that, okay, Spider-Man is making us a lot of money, and so we're just going to stick with that, and we're just going to stick with doing the same Spider-Man over and over and over again. Because it's going to get old, and people are going to keep buying it, though, so they're going to keep doing it. Or even if it's not Spider-Man. I think they have a good chance with Wolverine, but again, I am worried. I really don't have high hopes for this Wolverine. I think it's going to be too similar to Spider-Man as far as the feeling of it. I would love to eat my own words, though, and be wrong about that, because, again, Wolverine is my all-time favorite superhero. But that's about it for today. Yeah, I just wanted to let that out of my system, because just got done with Far Cry 6, and I was kind of like, man, I'm sick and freaking tired of these video games these days, just being pointless and boring, especially the combat, and I don't know, for Spider-Man, the combat needs to change up. But, yeah, so listen, you gotta like this, you gotta comment, and you gotta subscribe, okay? We're gonna be building this channel. All right, and you're gonna want to see what's next, okay? I know this video wasn't perfect. I know it wasn't. Don't lie to me. But we're getting there. I promise you, we're getting there. Right? It's also 12 in the morning, and I'm tired. I got work tomorrow. Give me a break. But yeah, comment, like, subscribe. I don't give up. I'm just kidding. I do. So do either one of those, or all of them. All of them would be preferred. But if you can only do one, subscribe, because I got like 4 subscribers and I'm trying to grow that. So I'm posting every day. I'm gonna, you know, I post a lot of shorts, but it's gonna change. All right. All right. Kisses.